Welcome to So I Married a Film Critic. I'm your co-host, Julia.
And I'm the film critic, Barry Wurst. How you doing, everybody?
And we just spent the last 4 days watching The Matrix. What, is it now a quadrilogy?
Now a quadrilogy. Yes, there are now 4 of these things.
Mm-hmm. I was so excited about this 4th Matrix installment that I told you I gotta watch them all again because I remembered the first one, barely remembered the second one. I don't think I ever saw the third one because I was so upset with the ending of the second one, and we were newlyweds that I think I just forgot about it.
Yeah, it came out this summer. The Matrix Reloaded and Revolutions came out the year we got married, so I feel like we had other things in our mind.
Yeah,
than the underwhelming Matrix sequels.
Yeah, exactly. New jobs, new relationship, and who needed to like blue pill ourselves or red pill ourselves or whatever.
Yeah, I told you I remember seeing the second one twice, and I saw it with your father, and I liked the second one slightly better than. I liked the third one better than the second one. Mm-hmm. But we'll get there.
Yeah. So we watched the first one, and we were both just like, yes, this is the best movie. Not the best movie ever, but we both loved it.
I can't argue with you. I think it's... 1999 was famously a great year for movies. This is the year of Office Space, Fight Club, Eyes Wide Shut, The Sixth Sense, Election, Magnolia, Snow Falling on Cedars. The list goes on and on. Three Kings. There were so many amazing movies that came out that year. And The Matrix, I remember the first time I saw it, I thought, this is 4 stars. This is a movie that loves movies. The Wachowskis created, every scene has a purpose. Every shot has beauty and texture to it. The way the story builds. I was telling you, this thing is, there are scenes in The Matrix where it's just Keanu Reeves and Laurence Fishburne talking to each other, and it's riveting.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be. It really should be, because it's a lot of gobbledygook. It's a lot of jargon. It's a lot of made-up mythology, but it's riveting. And it's R. It's rated R. I can't believe it. It's doing all the stuff that the Marvel movies do, except that it has guts. It's edgy. It's brilliant. And I can't say that Keanu Reeves' performance is, and I got to say, he's someone who, my respect for him and my love for him as an actor has really evolved so much over time because of a lot of the choices he's made. I don't know that his performance as Neo or Thomas Anderson in The Matrix is all that incredible, but he does lend something very special to that film. I really think it's Laurence Fishburne's movie, though, the first one.
I agree. I remember seeing this movie, the first Matrix, in the movie theater. I still remember when Trinity just kind of is up in the air, and freezes. Mm-hmm. And I just remember being like, what is going on? Everything was so interesting and new with that movie that, everything they did, you were like, okay, I'm on board with this, whatever story this is. I'm on board.
Yeah, I got to say, really, to take it back just a little bit, this movie really changed the way I thought about Keanu Reeves. Because, when he came out, Bill and Ted, yes, but he also did a movie called Parenthood, and I thought he was wonderful in that. I'm a huge Point Break fan, you know that.
Oh, yeah.
Love Point Break, but, I liked Speed. I didn't love Speed, but
I loved Speed.
You love Speed. We'll do an episode on Speed eventually.
Okay. Everyone who saw, when did that come out?
1994.
Yeah, I was 14.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I'm in love with Keanu Reeves.
All right. Well, I liked it. I didn't love it. But so the story I want to tell, just to give a little bit of context, and honestly, I think we could all understand this. He is so much more interesting than I think we ever gave him credit for, because he does Speed, and it's this huge out of control hit. Nobody knew Speed was going to be that good, that it was going to be that huge a hit. So suddenly, Reeves went from...
Pop quiz, hot shot.
Calm down. He went from being, second banana or okay, Keanu Reeves. He went to being a superstar and in demand. So 20th Century Fox offers him $11 million to do Speed 2, and he turns it down. And a lot of people, I read that and thought, what a flake. get back on the bus, Keanu Reeves. You don't want to do Speed. You're too good for Speed. $11 million. You idiot. Like there were rumors that he wanted to travel with his band, Dog Star. There were rumors that he just didn't want to do it. And, the thing that we didn't know that we know now.
That script was a dud.
He read the script. Exactly. And the quote, the one time he's ever spoken about it, someone asked him about it like a year after the movie came out. And he's like, "You mean speedier? Well, it's not, and I'm not," which is a great quote, by the way. So he turns down Speed 2 and he does The Devil's Advocate with Pacino. And I'm a fan of that movie. I really like him in that movie. But the thing is, right after Devil's Advocate, it's announced that he's going to do this movie. It was just called Matrix, just Matrix, not The Matrix. And I remember reading that he was going to make this film, and I thought, oh no, man, like don't do science fiction again. He did this movie called Johnny Mnemonic, which is a disaster. So, I just thought, don't do it, Keanu Reeves. Don't do science fiction is not your genre. This is not for you, man. And, it's from the director of Bound. I hadn't seen Bound.
Oh, ye of little faith.
Completely little faith. And then 2 years later, it's like one of the great Super Bowl trailers. I remember that trailer, like, wow, that movie looks incredible. I saw it opening day. And seriously, after one viewing, I'm like, this is a perfect film. It's a masterpiece. Mm-hmm. So, and his choices, he doesn't always get a slam dunk, but his choices have been so interesting, so eclectic. He's worked with so many great filmmakers. He's been in so many great films. I think early on in his career, he wasn't always the right guy for the role. There were times where he's in great movies and he's just not the greatest thing in it. And I think that has, for the most part, I think it's been pretty even. I feel like he's been the right guy for a lot of movies that I love, like whether it's My Own Private Idaho or Scanner Darkly. I feel like he is perfect for these films if he finds the right role.
Mm-hmm. And, well, let's get back to The Matrix.
So anyway, good choice, Keanu. The Matrix.
Okay, so I don't have a whole lot to say. Everyone has seen the first Matrix movie, and like you said, it's practically perfect, and it introduces us into this new world where we find out basically we're living in a simulation. It's our minds thinking that something is real that's not. When our bodies are in pods of squishy goo and...
It's the year 2199. Yeah. We live in a world that's meant to look like 1999 or so.
Right. And our bodies are basically batteries to power this alien world. They've taken us over and figured out that we're a good power source.
Needless to say, there's going to be a lot of spoilers here for all 4 Matrix films. So if you haven't seen them...
Oh my gosh, turn it off and go watch.
Because, like the whole thing about the first movie was, what is the Matrix? No one knew. So forgive us if we just spoiled...
Oh my gosh, we spoiled a movie from 1999. No, do not forgive us. Okay. So basically Neo he has the question. There's a question. You've been asking yourself, and he's like, what is the Matrix?
Do you want to know what it is? The Matrix is everywhere. It is all around us. Even now, in this very room. You can see it when you look out your window or when you turn on your television. You can feel it when you go to work, when you go to church, when you pay your taxes. It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth. What truth? That you are a slave, Neo. Like everyone else, you were born into bondage, born into a prison that you cannot smell or taste or touch. A prison for your mind. Unfortunately, no one can be told what the Matrix is. You have to see it for yourself.
He gets red-pilled, which is the term. And
it's now a part of, it's now part of the vernacular.
Yeah. And he ends up in the real world, and he's now on a ship in the real world, which is, I guess, Earth still. And
the ship is called the Nebuchadnezzar, and Morpheus is not only the captain of this ship, but he's also something of a religious guru who believes that Neo is going to be the one, the savior, the messiah, who is going to overcome the machines and restore some sort of balance to the world.
Yeah, so basically set everyone free from their pods so that they can live in the real world again, because they're basically not living a real life. And so the whole thing about what is real, what's reality, all those questions. And then they have to go, I guess why they have to go back into the Matrix is still a little fuzzy to me. Because is that how they're setting people free? Is by going in?
Well, they call them pods. These are disgusting embryonic sacs where naked people are living in them with these bolts and wires sticking out of them. It's disgusting. And to emerge from one of these things is basically to be born a full-grown human being and to see that you're one of thousands, if not millions. And there's these giant robot insects that are looking over you. Like it's really revolting. And I got to say, it's such a great reveal, because when Neo in the first movie decides to take the red pill, the movie really delivers on this concept that he's about to have his mind blown. We're all completely blown away. Like this is a hideous visual and strange, and anybody who's an arachnophobe is going to be really freaked out by it. It's wonderful. And the film really takes its time for that point. There's a lot of scenes of Neo in bed and Neo recuperating. Neo, really the weight of all of this is sinking into him. And as it is with us, it's a huge concept, this idea of the whole life that you've lived is a complete and total simulated lie. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So, we don't have to go plot point by plot point with this movie, but there's also the love story with
Trinity, played by Carrie-Anne Moss. There is a villain, Mr. Smith, played by Hugo Weaving, who's basically the representative of the machines, the great big bad of the machines.
Mm-hmm. And there's people inside the real world that are, what is it, Cypher?
Yeah,
he ends up being.
Yeah, Joe Pantoliano, who is so fantastic in the Wachowskis' first film, Bound, which is, I think, another masterpiece, by the way. But yeah, Pantoliano he's kind of an audience surrogate, I got to say, because I don't think he's wrong in the sense that he is put off by living in these desperate quarters, living on this ship. As opposed to being in the Matrix, where, as he illustrates, you're able to eat steak and you're able to go out and enjoy life, and it's the complete illusion of normalcy.
Right, yeah. And he says he's tired of eating slop, and
And we get it. It looks disgusting. It doesn't look like an appealing life. He's totally right. Again, the character is a Judas. I understand that, but I certainly understand where he's coming from, because the world that Morpheus basically, he pulls Neo into it, but it's also not an appealing world. Mm-hmm. So I understand why there would be a saboteur.
Yeah, and we don't see Zion in this first movie. It's really about defeating Agent Smith and protecting this little crew here. So I don't know. It feels like a big story, but not too big.
Yeah, we'll get to Zion in a little bit. Zion makes Fire Island look much more preferable. Zion is no pretty place either. But yeah, so The Matrix, the film is famous for its action sequences, of course, also for its very, very heady philosophical ideas. Heady for an action movie made in 1999, released by a major studio. It inspired a lot of texts. I remember a lot of scholarly material written about the Matrix. I remember a lot of scholarly books about the philosophies and the religions with the Matrix. There was a famous quote, I think it was Newsweek. Their poll quote for the movie was, "It's Batman meets the Bible," which I think is a wonderful, wonderful.
Oh.
You can kind of see why they would say that. So, yeah, and let me say it. The martial arts sequences in the first film, they are clean, they are fierce. The camera lingers on the actors. The actors are clearly really going for it and clearly achieved so much. Yuen Wo-ping was the choreographer for the first three films, and boy, does it show. These actors are looking fantastic. This is one of the best American martial arts films, period.
Well, and we watched some making of, and just the amount of green screens and cameras and pulley systems that they had these guys hooked up to, just,
Yeah, and they trained for months.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a lifestyle joining a movie like this. I mean, it's, the joke, Will Smith always likes to say, kicking himself because he turned down The Matrix and he did Wild Wild West instead. But I mean, Will Smith, we get it, man. Like for one thing, who can even understand what The Matrix was? Even if you read the screenplay, what is this film? The commitment to it. I mean, this film is so demanding on all of its actors, what it's asking them to do, and the physical, everything. It's just mind blowing. I mean, it really is like taking the pill yourself and joining this world. Mm-hmm. So
yeah. So we finished that movie, and I was like, all right, I'm excited. We're going to watch the second one. And the next night, I think it started going downhill pretty fast for me.
Oh, with The Matrix Reloaded?
Yeah.
The first thing I noticed was that the music is off, because the first Matrix movie has so many scenes that feel so iconic. There's so many scenes that have been parodied. There's so many scenes that I know so well that people have quoted. It is one of those movies where almost on a scene-to-scene basis, like, yeah, I know this scene so intrinsically well. And one of the things that makes the first movie so good, it's not just the Don Davis score, which is great, but the soundtrack cuts are fantastic, top to bottom. Whether it's Rob Zombie or Marilyn Manson, the soundtrack cuts on The Matrix are just perfect. And it's not that way at all for Matrix Reloaded. The Matrix Reloaded has a lot of second tier, not really that good techno beats that sometimes they don't even match the scene very well. So when Neo starts, throwing those punches, it's not as exciting anymore. And you can also tell there's a lot of stuntmen in this. So there's a lot of shots where it's Keanu Reeves from the back or the side, and it's not Keanu Reeves. And that's fine. I'm not saying Keanu Reeves isn't doing his work. Everybody's doing their work in this movie. But it's more noticeable in this second film. So right away, I just oh, okay, this is not the experience I had the first time, where I was just in awe of my God, that's Laurence Fishburne and Keanu Reeves, and they're really doing some amazing stuff here.
Mm-hmm. And can you briefly just talk about the plot?
The plot? Oh,
yeah.
No, please don't make me do that. Let's see if I can remember the plot. So at this point, I mean, Neo, Thomas Anderson, the hacker, he is Neo, and he truly is the one. So the quick throwaway joke at the end of the first movie is that Neo can fly now. And when we meet Neo in the sequel, I mean, Harold Perrineau, wonderful character actor, his character makes the throwaway line oh, Neo's doing his Superman thing. And I'm going, it's $21.99. Do they still know who Superman is? But anyway, so Neo is literally flying around, and he's this messiah figure. And I got to say, Reeves wears, I think, the same leather jacket and black sunglasses and black shirt through the entire film. He looks great, but he's also aloof and not approachable. I can't say I liked the character as much as the character even made an effort to ingratiate himself into the audience. It's a very different sort of thing. What happens? Mr. Smith has now multiplied himself 100 times over, so it's not just Mr. Smith. There are hundreds of them now. There is this business. It begins... I always forget the opening scene. It begins where Trinity is it Trinity or is it Neo having the dreams?
I don't know.
I think it's Neo. Neo's having the dream where Trinity, the love of his life, is going to die.
Oh, right.
So yeah, it's his dream. And so he is fearful about this incident involving falling out of a building, amongst other things, that's going to happen, where he wants to save her, but he also knows that he probably can't because he's having this vision.
Yeah.
Yeah. He meets up with the Oracle, played by the late Gloria Foster, who, by the way, was the villain in the Bill Cosby film Leonard Part 6. Fun fact. And let's see. After that, there is the famous Burly Brawl, where Neo fights about 117 Mr. Smiths, and it's a cool scene, I think, for about 3 minutes. But the scene is about, 12 minutes?
Way too long.
It goes on forever.
And then as more Mr. Smiths come, I think Neo just goes, forget this, and just flies away.
Yeah, that's not a good way to end a great fight scene, by the way. So there's a lot of scenes of people going places and then sitting down talking, going places, sitting down and talking. And I'm the guy who loves Tenet, so I mean, I'm going to talk about that sort of thing. But yeah, in this movie, it feels tedious, and not only is it tedious, but it also the film is taking chances. I got to hand it to the Wachowskis. They're trying some really quirky things here. But when you get to the Merovingian scene, that's for me when the movie really starts to suck. Lambert Wilson playing this character as the world's most stereotypical Frenchman. I gotta say, where was the Anti-Defamation French League for this movie? Because this character is awful. He makes Inspector Clouseau look refined. I mean, he's so awful. And the scene just goes on forever. And it has this, oh, you know what? I actually jumped over the Zion rave scene, didn't I? But to tie it together, we were talking about this as I was watching the movie. This film is crazy horny. This is a strangely kinky film.
Neo and Trinity are like, cannot wait.
It's a full-on sex scene, but then we also have the Zion rave / orgy scene. That's really what it is. It's a strange and long and swarmy scene. And then when we get to the Merovingian scene, there's a scene where the Merovingian I don't even know if I'm saying the name right.
Yeah, I don't think you are, but
I don't
it's
think I
okay.
am. Who cares? So he explains, because he's a bit of a programmer and he's a character within the Matrix. Is he in the Matrix? Yeah, he's in the Matrix. Yeah. So I hate this scene so much. He's explaining how there's a woman in the cafe who's eating across from them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and she eats cake. She is
because he put something like a program into the cake to make her, I guess,
excited.
Yeah.
And the movie digitally visualizes this, which has to be the low point of the film, because again, this is not like a teen sex comedy. This is The Matrix 2.
Right.
Look there at that woman. My God, just look at her. Affecting everyone around her, so obvious, so bourgeois, so boring. But wait. What, you see, I have sent her a dessert. A very special dessert. I wrote it myself. It starts so simply. Each line of the program creating a new effect. Just like poetry. First, a rush, heat, the heart flutters. You can see it, Neo, yes? She does not understand why. Is it the wine? No. What is it and what is the reason? And soon it does not matter. Soon the why and the reason are gone. And all that matters is the feeling itself. And this is the nature of the universe. We struggle against it, we fight to deny it, but it is, of course, pretense, it is a lie. Beneath our poised appearance, the truth is we are completely out of control.
I was like, wow, did they just like digitize her having like basically an orgasm?
Yeah.
And they did.
Yeah, it's insane. And then following that is the scene, and I gotta see, she's a great actress. She gets cast as Bombshells way too much. Monica Bellucci is an excellent actress, but she's basically used as eye candy in this film. She takes Neo into the restroom, kind of sort of seduces him. Really what she wants is just a really passionate kiss from him, to experience love. But it's weird because Trinity is right there watching it.
And yeah, she says, you kiss me like you kiss her, and then basically I'll give you what you want, which is what? To get to this Keymaster guy.
Yeah.
And Trinity like pulls her gun out on her, and I don't know. It's so ridiculous.
It's awkward. It's a very awkwardly written scene. It's an awkwardly conceived scene. There's a lot of scenes like that in this movie that just don't work. They should have been either rewritten or they should have been cut. There's a lot in this movie that could and should have been cut. there is a famous chase scene. The highway chase scene is the scene that everybody tends to like about this film. I like it, but it goes on too long.
Yeah.
And it ultimately, again, comes down to Neo flying down, getting the good guys, and then flying away. So like a lot of these action sequences feel very contrived because we're just waiting for Neo to do his Superman thing.
Exactly.
And then you have the scene with the architect, which is the big scene. It's basically Neo meeting the wizard behind the curtain, so to speak, in a room full of television monitors, and it's this weird little man who he speaks to. And as I was telling you the night we were watching it, I can't think of another movie, a big budget, lavish film on this level that has a scene that bombs this hard.
Well, because the whole thing is getting to the architect, right? Like he goes to the Oracle and she's
Dorothy meeting the wizard.
She's telling him you need to basically get to the architect. He has to get to the keymaster first. He has to do all. It's just one obstacle after another. So when he finally gets into that room, you're waiting for just the most amazing thing to happen.
It should be mind blowing,
and it's a bomb.
Yeah. And as I told you, like I was, and this is even before seeing the fourth one. I was hoping he would go in there and it would be Thomas Anderson. You know, maybe who Neo was before he became Neo. Exists as this computer hacker, or maybe it's like this punk 17-year-old kid who is just kind of gleefully controlling everything. But to have it be this pompous man who has this delicious vocabulary. It feels completely out of touch. This is a guy who looks like he doesn't even know how to turn on a computer, but he's supposed to be the master of this computer. No way. No, he's like a Dickensian villain. There's no way this dude is pulling any strings. But yeah, the scene, it's so flat.
This is where we find out that this is the 6th or 7th time that the Matrix has been rebooted. And there's been all of these ones that have basically tried to free humanity. And so, I don't know, I was kind of left thinking, oh, so Neo's really not that special? I mean, or is it him every time and he just doesn't know it? There's so many questions.
The film ends with a series of cliffhangers, none of them really all that interesting. And it ends with this shot of Neo on a slab head to head with this bad guy who
just a character we don't even care about.
Yeah, we really don't care about. We barely know him, but we do know that he's possibly possessed by Mr. Smith. But that's the cliffhanger. It ends with to be concluded. And thankfully, the filmmakers had the hindsight to think we can't keep them waiting for years. Let's just make it a couple months. So the Matrix
That
Reloaded,
was even too long for me back then, though. I was like,
I'm done.
This cliffhanger is terrible.
Because Matrix Reloaded came out in May, and then the sequel, the last one for a long time, The Matrix Revolutions, came out in November. So the third film begins with the really more development of this character Bane, who I just cannot stand. Bane is clearly, obviously possessed by Mr. Smith. He's obviously the bad guy. Nobody gets it. This guy is he's like Damien from The Omen, and nobody like, hey Bane, what are you doing? I'm just listening to I'm playing some records backwards. What are you guys doing? Like, everything about this guy is evil and nefarious. I mean, even all his lines, the way he looks, and they're just like, well, it's something strange is going on.
Yeah,
like,
something's weird about Bane.
What do you think is going on, Bane? Nothing. I mean, it's so dumb, and that Neo can't detect that Mr. Smith is within him. I mean, this is just as ridiculous as that whole Senator Palpatine Emperor stuff from the prequels of Star Wars. It doesn't make any sense that this guy is able to hide in plain sight and nobody suspects him.
Yeah, that's totally true. And now so we spend a lot of time in Zion in the third movie, and basically
way too much time.
Yeah, way too much time. And we basically find out that the robots are drilling down, and the humans below have, I don't know, some kind, they're like, they're going to be here in 12 hours, or, we have this countdown. So we're just kind of waiting to see if they're going to survive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The first, say maybe like the first 40 to 50 minutes of the Matrix Revolutions, it's just a lot of busy work, a lot of unfinished business from the prior sequel. So it's it's really dread-inducing. It's like, oh, you know, the first 15 minutes of the film, just like, yeah, that's right. I don't like this. This isn't the first film. This isn't that interesting. This is all this world-building mythology and all this endless parade of supporting characters we don't care about. And then we get to the middle of the film, which is the giant robot battle. We have a character we meet quickly, but interestingly, the character's name is General Mifune, who's clearly based on Toshiro Mifune, and he leads this robot army of these RoboCop rip-off robots with these giant guns, and they're able to fire at the evil squids. And I got to say, this sequence, I dig this sequence a lot. This is my favorite part of the film. It's a very long sequence, and to the movie's credit, Neo and Trinity are on a mission during this point. In this movie, there's like 12 to 15 minutes of no Keanu Reeves, and I completely forget that Keanu Reeves is even in this movie because we're so focused on this big war scene where all the side characters and supporting characters are taking part in this battle, this losing battle for the most part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we're also waiting for the Jada Pinkett Smith character, Niobe, to somehow get her ship back and detonate an EMF. I mean, is that EMP?
EMF.
EMP.
I know what that stands for. Yeah, I like Jada Pinkett Smith in this a lot. In fact, I would say she kind of steals the movie for a large part of it. She has a very commanding presence. She didn't have really anything to do in the second film, but in the third film, it becomes her movie for a while. The film basically turns into the Return of the Jedi, and she basically becomes Lando Calrissian flying the Millennium Falcon, really.
Yeah, but I kind of have to agree with the We Hate Movies guys when they say, I don't want to watch people drive. Like, I don't want to watch her fly. You know, it's a lot of just like her going, whoa, whoa. And then Laurence Fishburne looks like he's going to throw up.
I dig it though. Like I was telling you, this movie, I mean, again, to give the Wachowskis a lot of credit, not only is this film, just like the one before it, a hard R, a $200 million epic sci-fi tentpole franchise blockbuster. It's a hard R. But, I mean, what a diverse cast. What a pleasure to see a film.
The cast is awesome.
It's to see a spaceship in a $200 million movie where Jada Pinkett Smith is the captain and sitting in the sidecar is Laurence Fishburne and Harold Perrineau is in there. Like, this is very diverse cast, interesting choices. Nona Gay is in this movie. Like, I dig that part of it. And I like the spaceship scenes. I don't know. I dig that stuff.
It
and
was
I love
a little nausea-inducing at times. Yeah.
Well, the ship is flipping upside down. And
well, I know. And if you have, if you get nausea when you're like a passenger like me, it's like, oh my gosh, is she almost done? Are they there yet?
It is a long scene.
It is.
Every scene in this movie is a little too long. But then we get to the core of it, and this is also something I like. It's this ridiculous battle between Neo and Bane, where it becomes like a slasher movie in a spaceship for a little bit. But Neo is injured severely. It's definitely a nod to Greek mythology. He loses his eyes at some point. But I like that Neo is vulnerable in this movie a lot. I love that. This guy's been flying around willy-nilly for...
He's just been flying around the Matrix.
Like Peter Pan.
Doing whatever he wants.
And now he is mortally wounded. He is extremely vulnerable, even more so than when we first met him. I really found the character compelling again. And when he goes into the Matrix to battle Mr. Smith in this big gravity-defying action sequence where they're flying around an empty city and it's a thunderstorm, I dug it. I mean, this movie came out in 2003. It was 3 years ahead of what would be the new Superman movie. We hadn't seen Superman in a while. I mean, there's a lot of Superman in that final scene.
Okay, but before that,
what am I skipping?
Him and Trinity have to fly into the robot city, which we hadn't really seen a lot of. And they go up through like the sky, like the clouds.
That's a cool moment, yeah.
And I was thinking, there's still sun up there.
Yeah.
Because they said that they scorched the sky in the first one, and that's how the robots got their power, was from the sun, and so the humans scorched the sky and made it basically eternally dark and like basically a storm
Yeah.
the entire time, and the robots can't go into the clouds. So I found all that stuff really cool, and Trinity sees the sun for the first time, and she's like, oh my gosh, this is amazing.
Yeah.
It was just kind of a cool moment.
It is, yeah.
But then, they crash and basically Trinity dies.
Right.
And then Neo has to fight Smith. So that's crazy. He's basically blind, but he can see the world.
He's got Matrix vision.
He's got Matrix vision.
Yeah.
There you go. He can see the digital world, and he goes to the mainframe computer, and he's like, Smith is getting too powerful. You let me fight him, and then I want peace. So
yeah, it's a weird bit because
it's a little weird.
It's very. I mean, again, it's very Wizard of Oz, but kind of strange to put it mildly. But yeah, and then the movie goes on a little longer than it should. And again, the movie, I like the middle of this film a lot. I think the beginning and the ending are quite tedious. There's the architect shows up once again, and there's this business of the architect and the oracle speaking, very much God and the devil having a conversation about the world and who has dominion over what and how it works. But yeah, the ending feels extremely anticlimactic because until the film is over, you go, oh, Neo is dead. Okay, like you probably should have made that more clear, movie.
Yeah. So Trinity and Neo are dead, and supposedly there's peace, and so you're supposed to be happy, but it's sad.
Apparently, and then the end credits roll, and it's this knockoff Duel of the Fates music playing, and that's it. That for years, that was the last Matrix movie. And granted, there are games and there's the Animatrix, but really, as a trilogy, it ended in 2003, which brings us to the new film.
So that's why I was really excited to see what this new one would bring. And unlike you, I did watch the trailer, and the trailer is great. So I was really excited about it.
I was excited too. I mean, just because I was certainly interested because, of course, this is the first film that Lana Wachowski has directed without her sister Lily. They have made a number of interesting films over the years, which is not the same as making a series of great films, but they've made interesting films over the years. Movies like Speed Racer, Cloud Atlas, Jupiter Ascending. Again, not great movies, but interesting films. So I was interested to see what a Matrix film without the two of them would be like. I certainly, of course, like that Keanu Reeves and Carrie-Anne Moss were back. But yeah, unlike yourself, I avoided the trailer. I was in a theater once, and a friend of mine said, "Oh, the new Matrix trailer starting." So I closed my eyes and I covered my ears and I sang a song to myself for 230 seconds, which is the duration of a trailer. I didn't want to know. I do that all the time. I'm a weirdo. I'm a weird person to go to the movies with, because if there's a trailer about to pop up for a movie I want to see, I will tune it out because I don't want to know. I don't want to get spoiled. So yeah, so I did not know what to expect with the Matrix Resurrections.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get into it. Okay, so how does it start?
It begins almost exactly like the first film does.
Yes. With basically like a Trinity-like character, but it's not Trinity.
Yes, and it's witnessed by another new character named Bugs, who has blue hair and very interesting character. Although as she's watching the strangely familiar incidents as they're occurring, and they look exactly, almost word for word,
from
what
the
happens.
Same movie, yeah,
with just
from the first
different
movie.
actors. She says this line. She says, "It's so deja vu, and yet it's obviously all wrong." And I thought, oh no, don't let that be. Don't let that be an instant review. Don't do that. Don't make it so easy for me.
Yeah.
And it did.
Yeah.
It did. To jump the gun.
That was like the moment it kind of went downhill.
Interestingly, yes, it absolutely does. We meet a new Morpheus, and he's played by Yahya Mateen II. He starred in the recent Candyman film. He's in Watchmen. I love this actor. But he is not Laurence Fishburne.
No.
And he does not hold the screen like Laurence Fishburne, and the character barely has a function in this movie at all. So it's very strange, and it's very disheartening to see how easily and casually they replaced one great actor with another, but with a role that no longer seems to have any real purpose.
Yeah, I mean, in the first movie, And Morpheus is really the anchor. And
his faith is key, because you're not sure. I mean, is he a weirdo cult leader? Does he genuinely have a vision? Does he, is his spiritual belief genuine? Is it based on anything? Is he a madman? Has he just been in this world so long that he just is attached to this guy Neo? It's such a compelling and such a central part of that first movie. I'm watching these guys and thinking, this is what it's like to be in the presence of a religious guru, because you're looking at this guy like, do you believe still? How strongly do you believe? That aspect is gone here, and the film still does interesting things, but the core of the Matrix was, do you believe?
Right. Yeah. Then do we meet Neo?
We meet Neo, and it's and I didn't know what this film was going to be, so it's intriguing that Neo is no longer Neo. He is now Thomas Anderson, and
he's working for a gaming company called Dos Machina.
Deus Machina, Deus Machina.
And he basically created the Matrix video game.
Yes, so all the events of the prior films are just a video game created by this guy, Thomas Anderson. Mm-hmm. He's got Matrix figurines at his desk.
He's won awards.
The game is playing on his desk, and we hear almost like an 8-bit version of the soundtrack to the first film. It's a cool idea. And Reeves is playing a very different person. There's nothing messianic about this guy. He seems like a very tortured soul. And we realize that he is, because he's having a difficulty telling fiction from reality. He sees a psychiatrist played very well by Neil Patrick Harris. And we learn basically that Thomas Anderson is played by Reeves. He doesn't know which end is up. He's constantly having visions.
He doesn't know what reality is anymore.
And it's interesting. The film, of course, everything is so on the nose in this movie, but he is taking lots of blue pills to help him cope and to find reality. He is a suicide survivor. There is something very haunted about this man, even though he's celebrated for being the creator of the Matrix video game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So before we get into how Trinity fits into this world, we should talk about Thomas Anderson's job and all the chatter that goes on.
Oh my
in this
gosh,
job.
I was just going to say. So basically, they need to come up with another version of the video game. And so they're trying to decide which direction to go, and they just keep commenting on the Matrix. So it's basically the movie commenting on itself for 30 minutes?
If not longer. Yeah, it's
Do you remember some of the lines?
Well, I mean, it's ridiculous. There's a character. He's kind of the wacky, I guess, the comic relief. There's too many of them in this movie, but he just, at one point, it's a lot of millennials that sit around going, "Yeah, man, but bullet time and what the Matrix
was. It's a really
was
bad marketing meeting.
Yeah, and it's strangely similar to a scene in another Warner Brothers sequel that came out this year called Space Jam: A New Legacy, in which they sit around talking about how Warner Brothers has all these IPs and we're going to make a new Space Jam. So it's very weird that it's a similar sort of thing, although this is thankfully a better movie than that. But in any case, it should be provocative, and it's not critical. It's just the movie patting itself on the back.
Yeah,
a lot.
How great we were back then.
Yeah.
And now we need to recover our greatness.
I mean, we get a very brief cameo by the indispensable Christina Ricci, who's fantastic. She has one scene in this film, and she hands Keanu Reeves playing Anderson. She hands him basically this photocopy script for Matrix 4, and it's like, man, this movie is so on the nose about all this stuff. And on the one hand, a little of that goes a very long way. There's way too much of that, and it doesn't amount to anything. But what I told you, the thing about this sequence that continues to intrigue me was there's a montage set to Jefferson Airplane's White Rabbit, one of the 10 greatest songs of the 20th century. I love White Rabbit. And it's this montage there's a few things that happen in this montage that are interesting, one of which is that it's Neo's day-to-day. We see him taking his pills. We see him looking at himself suspiciously in the mirror. He's going to work. And it's cut with this nonstop chatter of dude, the Matrix is like Indiana Jones meets Star Trek meets philosophy. There's just, it plays for the duration of the song.
It's basically basically how his life is the same day every day.
Yeah, every day is interchangeable. There's a very curious shot of him in a bubble bath, and he's got the rubber ducky on his head, which made me think, does Neo not know how a rubber ducky works? I don't get what this ducky is supposed to do. I squeeze it. Why is it watching me bathe?
Wow, why is it in here?
I keep it on my head. And one of the visuals I really like is there's an overhead shot of him with a bunch of young people staring at their phones, and he is completely indifferent to that. And I thought, okay, that's, on the one hand, that's an age joke, but that also is saying a lot about how we're all hooked into the Matrix. And there is yet another interesting idea that the film presents, and it does not follow up on. The first of which is that Neo Anderson has to create the new Matrix game. There's no follow through on that. We never see it.
No.
That plot goes out the window. The whole idea of these characters talking about the Matrix in a very self-commentary sort of way, nothing ever comes to that. The thing that I thought was interesting is the idiot character I mentioned earlier. He mentions to Neo, he's like, I'm a geek, man. I was raised by machines. I thought, that's great. The movie's making the point that the machines have won. We're not even in the science fiction aspect of this yet.
Right.
And we're already establishing this is a world run by machines. People are relying on them. They are slaves to them. This is not even talking about Mr. Smith or the Sentinels. I'm like, that's great. This movie needs to do so much more of that. This is, but it's the problem with, for example, Steven Spielberg's Ready Player One, where Spielberg made a comment about people are just staring at their phones and not living in real life. And this movie, it wants to have its cake and eat it too. It wants to comment on that, and it does nothing with it. And it should, because that's a brilliant point.
Well, and that's very relatable. I mean, we are too reliant on our technology, you know? We lost our power for 24 hours, 2 weeks ago?
Right.
And we were like, oh my gosh, what do we do? Is our food going to go bad? How do we cook for ourselves? We don't have gas.
Will we
stove.
survive?
Yeah,
It's crazy. No, you're absolutely right.
So.
Yeah, considering how the first movie was, this is 1999, so, everyone says it's the infancy of the internet. No, the internet was doing quite well, and most people had AOL and Ask Jeeves at that point. Hey, I love Ask Jeeves.
You've got mail.
Exactly. That was the world we lived in. But now, now it is a point where, it is an addiction. It is something, people are just mindlessly, unceasingly. You go on like I've told you, you go on a subway train and you see people that got their earbuds on, they're looking at their phones, and they are just in a bubble. They refuse to have human contact. And this film, in its way, is commenting on that, but again, there's no follow-up, and there should have been. They should have honed in on that. That would have been brilliant to talk about how, look, you don't need Mr. Smith for this world to be run by machines. We are willingly...
Exactly. We're willing slaves.
Yeah, we're willingly blue-pilling ourselves.
Exactly.
And again, I feel the movie is kind of suggesting that, but again, there's no follow-up, and the film should have been about that. That would have been brilliant. That would have been all the reason to bring this franchise back, and no. Not at all. It's just an afterthought, and eventually unfortunately, we get to basically, the film basically just abandons its existential crisis. This question of, is Thomas Anderson really Neo, or is he a man who simply believes he is? It's the Jacob's Ladder question. It's great. It's like, yes. And all the scenes with Neil Patrick Harris, I thought Patrick Harris is killing it. He's great in this, even though he's wearing blue glasses, so we know what's up with him.
You ever wonder why you have nightmares? Why your own brain tortures you? It's actually us maximizing your output. It works just like this. Oh no, can you stop the bullet? If only you could move faster. Here's the thing about feelings. They're so much easier to control than facts. Turns out in my Matrix, the worse we treat you, the more we manipulate you, the more energy you produce.
Harris is playing an interesting character. I like the setup a lot, but then once, basically to use the Alice in Wonderland analogy, once Neo literally steps through the looking glass, then it's like, no, there's no question. Let's just get to the sci-fi stuff.
Question.
There's no suspense.
Well, you had an interesting point about all the self-reflective commentary and the director of the movie.
Yeah.
And I thought you should talk about that.
Okay, the sequence, because there's a lot to talk about in that sequence, the White Rabbit sequence. So there's like this obnoxious montage, and it feels intentional because for this very reason, I feel like the characters are, going like, well, I think this is what the Matrix is, and this is what was so good about the Matrix, and man, we wish we could have it as good as the Matrix, the Matrix, the Matrix, the Matrix. I'm watching, I'm thinking, this is what it was like to be a Wachowski in 1999, and every day since then. I'm sure this is exactly what it was like for Lily and Lana Wachowski every day of their life. Like, oh my God, you did the Matrix. So like, just dealing,
asking all the questions,
all the questions,
time
and not only that, because they famously, I mean, they do interviews now, but they were very, very hard to they just didn't do any media or press when the first one came out. So to think of all the stuff that was being filtered through them, all the frustrating things, like, oh man, like people just don't get that film, or whatever that was like.
Yeah, I wonder if just their personal experience really colored this whole script and why it maybe wasn't as great as it could be.
There's a lot of people saying that they feel like there's a lot of animosity geared towards Warner Brothers via Lana's script, which she wrote with two other individuals. I don't really see it that way. I think if the jabs at Warner Brothers feel very gentle, so this isn't like The Player.
Yeah.
Like, I don't feel like this
the
is a
jabs
really,
are like, Warner Brothers wants us to write a script. I mean, okay.
for the Matrix, TM, now in theaters. Like,
Yeah,
it's not really a takedown or much of a slap on the wrist, whatever. But yeah, I do feel like, if anything, it's kind of finally, we're kind of getting a window as to what it's like to be the creator of something that's so impossibly successful. And in a sense, you
can't live up to the success of the first one. So how are you going to do that on movie number 4?
And, and I'm not a huge fan of the sequels, even revisiting them after all these years. But I got to say, looking at them again, I'm kind of in awe of them. I mean, they are uncompromised. They're really weird. They're completely self-indulgent. They're violent. They're horny. There's like so many things about those sequels, but like, they are truly visionary, personal films. They feel personal. They don't feel like they were made just by anybody. They're quirky and they're interesting. But it goes to show that even though the Wachowskis got to do those 2 movies back to back, and I think they were like 300 million combined to make, it still wasn't enough. You can't, because the first movie, it's not only one of the greatest, it's also one of the most influential American movies ever made, full stop, period. I mean, that's what it is. So if anything, I feel like Lana is in a sense talking about how, like, look,
I can't top myself.
I'm not going to top it, so I'm just going to go something very different. And that is one way I can defend this movie, although I don't overall, but I think what I like about Matrix Resurrections is it's different. It's a even though it does have all these, gratuitous flashbacks and recreations of the first film and whatnot. It's a very different film. It feels different. It goes in different directions. It tackles different things. It's not just that it's a film, done in a different century than the first one. I do feel like. I feel like it is a personal film, even though a lot of the ideas here just don't connect.
Mm-hmm. All right, so Neo goes, or Thomas Anderson, whatever. He goes through the looking glass.
And he becomes Neo again.
Yeah, and he becomes Neo again. And everyone is like, whoa, it's Neo. And he's got like these fanboys in the real world that are, like, oh, like, I can't believe I'm actually getting to meet you. It's so amazing. I mean, I've been studying you my whole life. I'm like a neophile or something.
And I wonder, like, are these even actors? Like, did Lana go outside and like, hey, like, do you like Keanu Reeves? Oh, come here. You're gonna be in because that's
this movie.
It's exactly what it feels like. It doesn't. It's like the earlier scenes. The self-reflexiveness is a little. It's too much because it doesn't. It feels overly calculated. It feels like too much nudge,
it's a
wink,
little
wink.
over the top. Yeah. So, all right, they do make a comment. They don't have to use phone booths anymore, right? So they can.
It's all mirrors.
So they can go in and out of mirrors.
Which
But
is cool.
The problem is they don't show them going in and out every time, and so it'll just cut to them like unplugging them in the real world, and you're like, oh, how did they escape? In the first one, in all of them, getting to that phone and picking it up and making that phone call. I mean, that's the difference between life and death. So I I felt like they missed some of that suspense.
Definitely.
With this.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, obviously, this is their way of trying to deal with the fact that there's mostly no payphones left in the world. And believe me, I know where those payphones are because I love payphones, and there's just not enough of them.
He has a map of the 2 that are around here.
I guess I need to get into the Matrix. I need to know where those payphones are. But no, in all seriousness, like, yeah, the film plays very fast and loose with a lot of its myth and world building. A lot of this is brought to us by the new Morpheus, played by Yahya Mateen II. And one of the lines that he throws out that I really love, because it's talking about how Thomas Anderson has basically created this whole world as a video game. He says that he asks, "Are memories turned into fiction any less real?" I love that. That's an idea I really like a lot, and it's one of the many the film just doesn't do anything with. But we get another
so profound and done,
and it's gone. And yeah, so there's another Neo Morpheus dojo fight, except it's quicker, and it ends in a very different way. Neo, it's because he's the one, he's basically able to just like do the mime of pushing a building and things explode. That's like the thing that
he's got like his force field powers back.
And this is the first indication that
He's like, I still know kung fu.
Right. Yeah. I mean, just say the line. Man. The line is, "I'm still Keanu Reeves." Just say it, man. We know you're thinking it. But this scene also gave an indication that this film is not going to work like it should. And one of the things is that it's edited. The action scenes are edited very choppily. The martial arts choreography is not completely there, even though there is a lot of action. It's shot in a really choppy way. It's not like the first film where Reeves and Fishburne, just to do that contrast, in the dojo, the camera is on them for long, lingering takes. We're seeing the choreography. We're seeing the violence. We're seeing the danger. We're seeing these actors really seemingly go at it. This is cut so quickly. It's like it's a shot of Keanu Reeves throwing his hand up, a shot of Yahya blocking, a shot of Keanu. Like it's so choppy. We don't get the sense of rhythm and movement. If anything, it looks like maybe they did just a couple moves and they would just cut it up. It's not unlike the new Snake Eyes movie, the G.I. Joe movie. I was really disappointed because this is clearly not a film where the actors, I mean, if they trained for months in this movie, you would never guess it. It doesn't look like the first movie did.
Yeah. The stakes don't feel as high. Now,
and it's weird because Reeves is still playing John Wick, and he is amazing in those movies. I mean, Reeves does those shots in Wick that I'm referring to, like in The Matrix, where the camera is on him for, I don't know, 30, 40 seconds, and he's killing 70 people with a pen. You know, like where's that?
Maybe I need to watch some John Wick. Okay. Now, we do learn more about Trinity.
Yeah.
And I thought this was an interesting subplot, I guess. Or is this the main plot? I don't even know.
Everything here is the subplot.
I guess.
Everything.
So basically, before Thomas Anderson goes back into the Matrix, he's in, what is the name of the coffee shop?
Oh, it's bad.
It's Similate. See, everything is like,
yuck,
ha
nudge,
ha,
nudge.
wink, wink. So they're in Similate, and the Trinity character, yeah, now her name is Tiff, and she, comes into the coffee shop, and, they like supposedly meet for the first time, but she's like, "Do I know you?" Okay, so, all right, so they know each other in the Matrix. Well, what we find out is that the computers, the machines, like basically rebuilt them and put them back in their pods.
Yeah, and this is a really arresting and disturbing sight that we get just a few shots of. And there should have been more of this.
Yeah.
Like very disturbing shots of them being rebuilt by computers, literally. And them next to each other and sort of embracing while the computers are attempting to put them back together. It's an interesting idea.
Well,
again,
but what happens with
one.
them that is a little murky.
It's really murky.
It's really murky. Is that their like love for each other, their like connection is so, I don't know, palpable.
Ain't no mountain high enough. Ain't no river deep enough.
That the two
keep me from you.
Okay. All right. That the two of them just being in close proximity creates so much energy for the Matrix that they could power all of it with just their like love alone.
I love it. You could say this with a straight face. Yes.
Well, but is that what they were saying?
What is this thing called love?
So they couldn't be right next to each other. They had to be like, their pods had to, no, they seriously spent a long time talking about this.
You're right. Yeah.
Their pods had to be like a very specific distance apart.
Keep them distance. Their love is too much for us.
But it's so powerful that we need their battery energy or something.
Right.
So once Neo escapes, he's like, we need to get Trinity out.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, to get somebody out who's not ready to be out could kill them.
Which is a really cool thing. And the first movie made a point of this. Although, let me throw this out. Thomas Anderson has an awakening the same way Neo does. And it's not that big a deal.
Yeah. It's not.
He takes it very well.
Like he basically goes through the looking
oh
glass.
yeah, this was in my game. Oh, okay.
I know.
Yeah, because in the first movie, I mean, it's akin to someone like getting out of rehab,
being born again,
or surviving being struck by lightning. Well, however you want to. Yeah, in this case, it's like sleeping off a hangover.
Right.
And
it's not as big of a deal.
And I get it. The movie needs to get going, but still, again, this guy takes this very, very well. Not only is he reborn after being stuck in an embryo for his entire life, but that this whole video game...
find out it's been 60 years.
Right.
60 years.
60 years.
So he's been in this goop for 60 years. And then he
looks great.
He looks amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, it must be anti-aging goop because...
But he does have a beard. Well, the beard comes later.
No. He has a beard in the Matrix, and
you're right. I was confused about that.
In the real world, he's hairless.
Right, and it's his John Wick beard too. Like they should have just not done the beard in this movie, but whatever.
Well, maybe he wanted to keep it.
I'm not shaving my beard, okay, Wachowski. I'm about to make another John Wick. It takes a long time to make this beard.
So now he has to basically get Trinity out, and they have this whole weird plan, and someone else Sati shows up from the
it turns into a heist movie, which is very, very peculiar.
Yeah,
I feel like we're jumping over something. I mean, at one point there's an action sequence in the Merovision, if I'm saying that name right, and I don't think I am. Lambert Wilson throws in a cameo, and what's really embarrassing about this cameo is the camera is on him and only him, and everyone's looking at him. Clearly, the actor just got into wardrobe, shouted crazy things at the camera for the day. I bet he wasn't even on the set with Keanu once. It
just shouts things in French, and there's no subtitles, so we don't know what he says.
It's so embarrassing. And, this is a really good actor, folks. Like, this is not he's a good actor.
You've ruined my life. Yeah, what are they called, all those people? Because they're basically exiles. The exiles, and it's him, and there's a couple other randoms.
There's a lot of those in this movie because Bugs establishes herself as an interesting character. She's basically called that because she has the rabbit tattoo in the same way that the character that brought Neo into this world in the first one does. But so many times I'm looking at Bugs and Neo and everyone around them going, who are these people?
Yeah. I mean, Bugs is a great character, and she really kind of anchors a lot of the film.
They should have let her anchor this movie the way McKenna Grace, kind of an offsite, but McKenna Grace, the young actress from The Handmaid's Tale, she's basically the star of the new Ghostbusters. That was a smart move. She carries that movie. It was a great choice to have her lead the film. I'm not saying that I didn't want Neo as the lead of this film, and I wanted Keanu Reeves to be in every scene, and he is. But... a little more focus. This editing, this script, like the prior sequels, really needed to be severely edited.
Yeah, because they're bringing back a lot of characters that, I mean, we just finished watching the trilogy, and so I was like, oh my gosh, they're bringing that random person back? Why?
Yeah, but when they bring back Jada Pinkett Smith, it's arresting because she's covered in makeup. She looks convincing as an ancient
I think she was
Niobe.
around 90-ish years old.
Probably, yeah. And I really thought she killed it. I loved her performance. There's a gravity to her scenes. It makes sense when they bring her back. Bringing back Lambert Wilson, I'm like, is Monica Bellucci in this too? Like what is... Yeah.
Are they going to bring back the albino guys?
The albino Rasta twins?
Yeah,
gosh.
thank God they did not do
that.
I
hated those characters.
Yeah. Okay, so now we're in a heist to get Trinity. out of the Matrix.
And it's affecting. Like there's a shot of Neo looking down on her, and you see that she's stuck in the embryo. And I mean, it's creepy, it's haunting. You understand why you got to get her out of there, but it's also this great idea of like the shock of learning that she's been encased in this for so long, could probably kill her. That's compelling. Although the stakes would have been a little higher had, for example, Thomas Anderson expressed any kind of shock at being in this stuff. But it's like, oh, okay, I get it. All right, fine. Just take a shower. It's fine.
Yeah.
Got these bolts in my neck. No worries.
Well, because they don't get flushed anymore. They basically just get picked up by some sentient. And that's the other thing this movie does is it has the humans and certain machines working together now.
It's a weird idea. It's like the alien technology in Independence Day 2. It's a cool idea that the film just does not develop. Because you got these cutesy aliens. They look like Disney characters. They're just like flying. At one point, like one character gives another little robot character a fist bump.
Yeah.
Yet nothing comes of this.
So it's like, okay, the squids are bad and we don't like them, but now we have
these manatee things with big smiles.
Yeah, and it's like they kind of allude to the fact that once there was peace, that some of the robots were like, we're going to go to the human side and just like check this out. Oh, we like them. We're going to hang out and we're going to build a whole new city. They have a new city. Zion's destroyed. They now live in a place called Io. They grow strawberries. I mean, it's like, oh, okay.
Why Io? They're like, just take away the Z and the N. Io. There you go. Io.
Exactly.
Who cares?
Exactly.
Just Io. We have cute robots. We need some action figures for the kids for Christmas, so we just have some cute robots and bad robots.
Yeah.
And something you pointed out, which I thought was hilarious, in the first movie, when Neo first emerges from the goop, when he's got the bolts in the back of his head, you're absolutely right. It is shocking. It's body horror. It's disgusting. It's disturbing. As the sequels progress, they get worse and worse. They look like just big buttons, like glued to the back of the actors. And in this movie, they look like Legos. They don't even look that bad. They look very like fashionable. And
I don't know. Yeah, the makeup department was slacking on their like little whatever button things. But yeah, so it's strange. So Sati comes back.
Yeah.
And
Sati, we meet as a little girl at the beginning of the third film in a subway, a very peculiar way to open any film.
Yeah. And she is feeling guilty because her dad created the pods that enslaved Neo and Trinity. Like he created that program that would, I guess, give energy to the Matrix.
That nice man we met on the subway platform. Who knew that he was like this?
Well, he didn't know that they were going to use it for something.
Nefarious purposes.
Yeah, but I mean, come on. You're working for the machines. Like, you're a program. How would you not know that? So,
can you make a pod human size?
yeah.
Can you put juices in there? They cannot
He's
escape.
like, ooh, I wonder what this is going to be used for.
We will pay you handsomely.
So he downloads the plans to her, and then her parents are killed. And she's like, I miss them every day. I'm like, okay. I mean, I don't know. Am I supposed to feel something for these robot programs that are like disintegrated? I
think the Wachowskis would say yes. I think anyone else would say no.
I mean, okay, you lost your program parents. I don't know. So, but
my mom and dad, Pac-Man and Miss Pac-Man.
So she's gonna help the humans now. Like, that's basically the why of why she's doing what she's doing.
I'm just imagining the Pac-Man funeral. We came here today to celebrate the life of Mr. and Mrs. Pac-Man.
Oh my gosh. It's funny. So anyways, they have to go get Trinity, and so Neo has to go into the Matrix, and he's okay. So back to his boss.
Yeah,
because his boss.
This subplot.
It's like
so stupid.
There's too many characters,
and there's too many D-bag characters in the world that Thomas Anderson lives in, and yeah, the one who is his boss, and you pointed out it's an acclaimed actor,
Jonathan Groff from Frozen fame.
Although apparently he's a TV and stage actor.
Broadway.
Yes, very accomplished actor who's unfortunately he's doing the same thing that the actor playing Bane did in the prior sequel. He's basically giving us a lot of tells that he's possessed by Mr. Smith, which is, by the way, nowhere near as good as having Hugo Weaving in this movie, which they should have just done. So stupid.
I don't know why. I mean,
they bring back Lambert Wilson, but they won't bring back Laurence Fishburne or Hugo Weaving.
Maybe because they don't want to give away who these people are. I don't know, because
Or do you think maybe Laurence Fishburne and Hugo Weaving did a Speed 2 where they looked at the script and they said, no.
Yeah, they might have might have done that. But, okay, because Neo is able to hide in the Matrix because the computers changed his, like, IP address, basically. And so he doesn't look like Neo to everybody else. He looks like an old man who's bald, right?
And this is cool because we see these reflections really quickly, very symbolically. Yeah, and same thing with Trinity. She doesn't look the way she does either. Yeah.
Right. So that's how they've hidden them in the Matrix so that people like Bugs, other programs can't detect them because they can't read their code. So maybe that's why they used a different guy to play Smith. Because they don't want to give it away to the audience?
This idea that in this computer world, people have different avatars. But the problem is if you have iconic actors playing these iconic characters, you want to see the iconic actors play the iconic characters.
And it's not that Jonathan Groff is a bad actor at all.
No, he's a great actor.
He's fine.
So is Yahya Mateen II. But, again, I want Lawrence. I want Hugo. I don't want these new guys. These guys could do something else.
I don't want these new guys. You want the old program. You don't want the new program.
That's right. I don't want Matrix 4. I want Matrix 1.
Yeah, that's basically what we're saying. Just go back and watch the first one. Okay, so they have to... It's crazy. They're in the Simulate. And... No, but they have to convince... He has to convince Trinity to come with him.
Right, and the thing that cracks me up is the way the evil computers counter this is... Trinity/Tiffany's awful soccer mom family shows up like, come on, Mom, we gotta go. Where you been? Hey, is dinner ready yet? Come on, you gotta take the kids.
So-and-so is in the hospital. You need to come now. And trying to just distract her. But
it's pretty obnoxious. It's like, are you going to be a subservient mom or are you going to be this awesome warrior in the Matrix?
I know, but it's okay, so Neo has this deal with Neil Patrick Harris, who's the architect.
Surprise, surprise, he's the big bad.
He's the architect. Yeah. Okay. And so basically once they hold hands. Once Trinity is like, I'm not Tiffany, I hate that name, and she
starts kicking people in the face, which is great.
Yeah, she starts kicking butt. Once they grab hands, oh man, the sparks literally start flying.
It's like, it's like Highlander.
And then there's a whole big fight. But then...
And a lot of people like flinging against walls. There's a lot of that.
Yeah. But the person who like helps them get out of this situation is the Jonathan Groff Smith character. And it's basically like Smith and the architect are not always working together.
Yeah.
And I guess because Smith is still bitter that there's not a million of him anymore and he wants to get his power back.
Yeah. Or something.
Yeah. I don't know.
It's ridiculous because knowing that character as well as I do, I can't imagine him working with anyone. He's awful. He's a jerk. He doesn't pair up with people.
Yeah, exactly. He basically helps who he wants to help when it's convenient for him.
He's the Darth Vader or the Joker of this story. Yeah, he doesn't pair up with people. It's because
he saves the day a couple times, and that's strange.
Very much so.
You know, it really should have been Neo's crew taking care of business,
right?
But it seems like they get into all these like situations where they can't get out. All right. So then when Neo and Trinity escape, this is when they get on that motorcycle. And
there's all sorts of craziness here, and I gotta hand it to Lana Wachowski. She clearly didn't have the budget on this movie that she did for the prior two movies. This is a much smaller film. As I mentioned, not only the fight scene's not up to snuff, but the scale of this thing, just even though the special effects are spectacular, the scale isn't as big. But whatever this movie has, it throws everything at the last 20 or so minutes. So a touch I told you that I couldn't stop laughing at. So So I mean, again, it's a nicely progressive idea, and it's commenting how Trinity, as much as the star, as much as the central empowered figure of this as Neo is. So she's driving the motorcycle. He's like
on the back
with her, which is again like a nice reversal of that sort of traditional thing you'd see in a movie. So they're driving around, and again, Keanu is doing his mime pushing the wall thing where he's like
his force field.
Yeah, and he's making people fly around, he's making cars explode. But then the touch that killed me was he would do this thing where they would drive past a bad guy and he would punch them in the face, like this side, like punch, just like punch them as they drove by. Yeah. Which is very silly. And then
well, this is where they introduce the bots,
which is a terrible idea. So instead of it just being, because they get rid of the Mr. Smith concept, which is that anybody and everybody can turn into these Secret Service like figures. Right. So in this movie, they're basically zombies. Essentially, they're like robot zombies.
Yeah, and there's just like hordes of them.
Yeah,
and it's like, I mean, I understand where the concept comes from because there are like bot farms where people create them and then they go out on like Twitter or other social media and they will make comments, and you won't always know if it's a bot comment or not unless you can like look at the account and you can kind of tell, oh, this person has 0 followers and 0, it's not a real person.
I've never heard of any of this. So wait, what do you mean there's bot farms? What do you mean?
It's basically, it could be
educate me. I don't know
like
this.
Well, it's like it could be like a warehouse of just like phones, and each phone is like
robocall,
like kind of like supposed to represent a person.
Okay,
but it's not. It's a program, and so these programs will tweet or like or comment on things. Yeah, they have their own like Instagram accounts.
So you mean that one dude who like tweeted a thumbs up on my Matrix Resurrections review might be a bot?
It could be a bot.
Wow.
People can, people will. Whoa. People can like buy likes or fans. And so like you could look at an account and they could have like thousands of followers, but a lot of them could be bots.
My fans may not even be real. All 7 of my fans?
No,
wow.
All 7 of your fans are real. If you had...
That's true. I know them by name. Mom, Dad, Marty. You.
Oh my gosh. So I guess I don't fully understand the purpose of having bots, but it's to help algorithms and to get certain messages out on social media. So,
okay, but in the Matrix Resurrections, they're zombies.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is bots in our world are real things, well, digitally real things.
Okay.
And so I think they took this idea of like, oh, okay, we're going to just like turn these people into bots and they're just basically committing suicide. They're jumping out of windows and trying.
Yeah, that's a fun idea that the movie introduces. It's an outrageous idea.
Oh my gosh! I just said they're committing suicide, and you're like, yeah, that's a fun idea.
It's the Matrix. Who cares? Who cares? Hundreds of people die. It's the Matrix.
That's true.
Yeah. So no, because it's like I said, it's like the final scene of They Live, where it's like this couple in bed. It's this hot chick and her hot boyfriend, and all of a sudden he turns into a bot and runs out the window. And she's just, Tommy, what are you doing? Get back to bed, Tommy. He's he jumps out the window, and there's it's like raining bodies coming out of windows to land on Neo at 4 or 5 stories below.
Right.
Fun idea, as I said. It's like it's right out of M. Night Shyamalan's The Happening, but whatever, fine. If you're gonna steal from the best, Lana Wachowski.
Oh man. Well, it was just so crazy because it's like the Smith thing where there's so many that you're like, I don't know if this is how are they going to get out of this?
Yeah.
So they do. I mean, Neo and Trinity end up on the roof of a building, and it's
all sorts of shenanigans with a helicopter, gunfire, lots of explosions, and then this interesting shot where
they jump,
they make a leap, and they're suspended
and
in
then she is suspended in air holding him, and he's like, I'm not doing this, are you doing this? And I think she's kind of like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but she kind of realizes who she is and her power at that moment.
It's
And
cool.
It is cool.
Yeah, it's a nice idea. A better movie would have had a bigger reaction to that moment, but fine. I mean, this movie is just like, it's so all over the place that at this point, like it's amazing that this film is coherent at this point, let alone, that it has these moments that we remember, because it's just a lot of narrative chaos.
Yeah, a lot. Well, so, because once they escape, I mean, the architect is like, kill Neo, and the squids go, and Neo's gone. He's not in his pod anymore. So, they basically ghost everybody, and I don't even remember how they actually do everything, because it's so technical, their jargon. But, okay, they get Trinity back into the real world. So...
Yeah.
That was like, yay us, we accomplished our mission.
Yeah, and there's that final bit where Keanu Reeves is holding the cat. He actually does say, whoa. I thought, man, movie, you got a lot of nerve. Like 2 minutes to go, and you get the line in there, fine. And then we see, because it's her, it's Carrie-Anne Moss beating the tar out of Neil Patrick Harris. At one point, she dislocates his jaw and all this stuff.
Oh, yeah, because she's really ticked at him, and she's like, that's for using children, to basically try and manipulate her character.
I wasn't sure what she meant by that. I'm like, whoa, this movie just got really dark. Oh, the
fake,
her
fake family.
Her soccer mom family.
Yeah.
Who cares about
her
that?
fake family?
Yeah.
To basically keep her inside. Yeah. So I don't know.
Wouldn't it be worse that she's like in a fake marriage, but she's angry, like, I had to raise those kids, those stupid kids. You used me.
Because they're like, come on, Mom.
I had to put those stupid kids in private school. I hated that.
I had to work extra hard in this fake world to get fake money to pay for them.
I had to get those kids tutors. I had to make their lunches every morning.
I know. Okay, so then what happens after that?
They fly away, and we get a bad cover version of "Wake Up." Over the
that's the
credits.
end.
That's it.
That's it,
folks. And then there is an end credit stinger scene, a terrible scene that I don't know what she was thinking, where it's back to the board meeting of the beginning of the film,
of their marketing meeting.
More Matrix jokes,
and they're like, we think we should do some cat videos, and we'll call it the Cat Tricks.
And then nothing. Then the movie ends going, wow, that's where you wanted to end this?
Face reality, people. Movies are dead. Games are dead. Narrative, dead.
Media is nothing but neural trigger response and viral conditioning.
Wait, what are you two talking about?
Cat videos.
What we need is a series of videos that we call the Cat Tricks.
That's it? Like, they could have done something really cool, because she left it open for a fifth movie.
Right. And instead of giving us, I mean, honestly, I'm not really excited about a fifth Matrix movie at this point, but any kind of hint or tease would have been preferable to what feels like a really bad outtake.
Yeah, exactly. They probably did that, and then she took it out and said, I'm going to put this after the credits. Like, why?
Yeah, this is an odd film. Very, very odd. And the first film has a strangeness to it, of course, but the strangeness is intrinsic to its story of a man realizing that the world is not the world he lives in. This is just a film with all sorts of ideas, and some of them are intriguing, but those are the ones that are dropped. The bad ideas are the ones that exist for the entire 2-hour, 20-minute running time. It's way too many characters. I think there's some really interesting visuals. There's some beautiful moments. This is not one of Keanu Reeves' best performance, but he is such a welcome presence at this point. I give him so much leeway to just kind of walk through this movie. But it's funny to think that he did Bill and Ted 3 last year, Bill and Ted Face the Music. Much better movie, and he was much better in that film.
Oh, man.
And the bar was so low for that film, but it's actually a really good movie.
That's probably why. The bar for this was so high that,
which is fair.
I mean, obviously, even Wachowski was like, I can't even meet this. This is too much.
There's interesting stuff in this film. I wouldn't be opposed to watching it again because there are moments I like, but the self-reflexive stuff is obnoxious. It's not witty. It's it's like a bad Mad TV skit, you know. It's just like it's really, really awkward, and you can't even laugh. You're just kind of like, why are they even trying this stuff? Yeah, so for me, I think it's one of the most disappointing films of 2021. We're recording this the day after it came out.
Wow, most disappointing.
One of. I mean, you know, there's still a week to go, but
Yeah.
this is definitely at the top because it's the Matrix 4.
I know. I was really hoping for something way more profound, and I think they kind of were like, you know what, y'all just here's a blue pill and go to sleepy time. You know, I was hoping for like because the first movie is such, you know, basically they're giving the audience the red pill in that first movie, and this one is just kind of like, I don't know. I feel like Neo in those meetings with his therapist, and his therapist going, yeah, what you were thinking about it, that's not even relevant anymore.
So here's how I would have ended the film.
Oh, okay.
So, excuse me, all of the end credits are finished, and instead of that nonsense with the cat tricks, we get one more level of meta. It's self-reflexive to the next degree. So it's a scene of Thomas Anderson, and he's sitting at a desk and he's reading, and on the other side of the desk is this Hollywood fat cat, and we realize like, oh, it's not Thomas Anderson, it's not Neo, it's Keanu Reeves, and he goes, okay, so I'm going to be playing Thomas Anderson again? That's the Matrix 4? And the guy goes, yes, and we'll pay you $20 million. It's like, okay, it's a deal. So Keanu Reeves shakes the guy's hand, and he walks out of the office of Warner Brothers, and the Warner Brothers mogul looks right at us, and his face fades, and it's Mr. Smith. That's how I would have ended the film.
Wow. I don't know how I feel about that.
Did it blow your mind?
Whoa.
That would be a no.
I don't know. I mean, you know, I'm still kind of stuck on the first, you know, movie where they talk about freeing everybody, but they basically in this movie they say nobody wants to be free. You know,
and
so
that's an idea they should have developed.
So it's like, okay, well, let's talk about that. Let's explore that. I mean, if there's, you know, less people in the real world now because they're all getting older or dying, and nobody else wants to be free, like how do you get that message to them? How do you tell them, no, you really do want to live a real life?
Yeah.
I don't know, but I felt like they kind of just said, yeah, you know, people want to just like be lazy and be on their phones, and just like it's like the part during that song where you just wake up every day, go to work, go to sleep, wake up every day, go to work, go to sleep. And no, people want to do that. It's like, do they though? I mean,
It's the difference between existing and living.
Right.
The first film I felt was about believing in something bigger than yourself. It is about faith. It is about believing in the impossible. It is about whether it's, you know, whether the acknowledgement of this makes you insane or whether it makes you a rational person who has woken up. The very thin line between madness and awareness. And yeah, this movie just does not have that. But for the reason that you said, it would have been very interesting for the movie to comment on how we are just overly reliant, complete, total willing slaves to technology and the internet and
well, but they did.
that.
I mean, they did comment on the fact that the old Zion was basically terrible, eating the sludge every day,
right. But the new Ion or EO doesn't look all that much better. It really doesn't. I didn't think it was.
They
much
have
of a step
strawberries though. Strawberries.
It looked like they had one strawberry. This one strawberry is very good.
Yeah. Well, so, but it's commenting that we needed these sentients to be able to do that. Like to like get to the next level.
We need to make harmony with our enemies for one thing.
Right. But we wouldn't, but they're also saying, because at one point the ship is going into Io and Neo is like, you're going to hit the wall. And they basically had like a hologram, you know, and they're like, we had to figure out how to hide from the machines better, you know, like there's all these really cool things, like you said, that they talk about, and then they just kind of like, okay, well, moving on.
Yeah, there's a I feel like there's a wealth of good ideas here that come up and they're interesting and they're immediately disposed of for, more special effects, more action. It's a mistake to do a film like this where the first 20, 25 minutes roughly are kind of a joke about the Matrix, and then we're supposed to be taking the Matrix seriously.
Right.
A smarter movie would have found a way to make that work, because the thing about Scream is that Scream is a comedy about horror movies, but at some point Scream becomes a horror film. And Scream, it always is self-reflective. Scream is always, making fun of horror films, but it is a scary film. And I feel like this movie doesn't find that balance. If anything, it just kind of forgets, or it just completely ignores the jokey quality of the beginning, and it just kind of goes through the expected motions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it goes meta, and then it just is like, never mind.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of unmet potential in this movie, and I don't know. I mean, like, who do we blame? I mean, I don't know if I don't want to completely blame Lana Wachowski. I don't know if I want to blame the other people she wrote it with. So one of the authors of the screenplay was one of her collaborators on Cloud Atlas. But yeah, this movie, it's I hate this because like it's a weird way of putting it, but it's like this movie is both too little and too much.
Oh yeah, totally. All right, so you already gave us an alternative ending.
Yes, mine did not blow your mind. Do you have one that'll blow my mind?
No, I really have no alternative ending. But I guess, it did feel like they really wanted to make the Neo and Trinity love story like really something. And I don't know, it could have gone further with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a naive and silly idea that these two people are radioactive in their attraction for each other, that they hold hands and suddenly everything around them explodes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Which not a terrible idea, but I mean, again, this is something for comedies. There's a movie with there's one with Kevin Bacon and Kira Sedgwick, his wife, called Pirates, about two people who set things on fire when they have sex.
Do tell me more.
Yeah, and there's also one with same year, I think, Dennis Quaid and Deborah Winger, called Wilder Napalm, about two people who they're in love with each other, but the problem is they both have the telekinetic power to set things on fire at will. I don't know, there's something to be done about that, but it's like it's just another crazy idea that's thrown in here. And, unlike, in the original, like the whole thing of deja vu, when you see the cat, that's an arresting idea. We still talk about that.
Now they make fun of it in this movie.
Yeah, like it's the ideas in this movie, there's a lot of them, but they just don't stick like they should. Whereas in the original, they really compartmentalized all of the fantastical elements.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so how many stars did you give it?
2.
Oh, okay. So not terrible.
No, and it's funny because as we say this, I mean, we're recording this a day after this film opened, and I've already, like, 2 critics who I like and I know personally, they both given this movie half a star.
Wow.
But there's also a few critics who count it like it's better than you think it is. It's a guilty pleasure. Or it's actually a smart movie, which I don't think is right at all. No, I think it's an interesting failure. But still. But if you know what, I'd rather watch this again than watch Jupiter Ascending or Cloud Atlas or Speed Racer. But I do think the other Matrix sequels are better. And as I said, I think the third one is the best sequel because I think the middle of that movie really delivers, unlike the rest of that movie.
I think I would rather watch this one again than the second one, just to have lower expectations and see if maybe there's something I missed. But yeah, I mean, my expectations were super high. So,
but let's face it, we could say that, but I mean, if it's a great movie, then it's like, well, who cares what my expectations were? This thing
delivered.
Really, I mean, there's all sorts of film. I mean, whether we're talking like this year, like Dune, or although for me, like the new Ghostbusters movie, those movies completely met. Shang-Chi, those movies completely surpassed my expectations, and I was already thinking like, oh, I want this to be so good, and they were. This movie really should have been good because they had time. The last movie, but I mean, the last movie came out the year we got married, Jules. Like they had all. I mean, this thing was
like 18 and a half years ago.
This thing has been gestating as long as we've been married. And this is what they came up with. It's not enough.
Oh, man. You think they were writing scripts this entire time?
I'm sure they were thinking. I'm sure, Jules, when number 2 and number 3 both made over like, what was it, $400-700 million? Yes. I'm like, I think those Wachowskis are like, you got any ideas? Yeah, I'm sure they're like,
do you have a $100 million idea or a $10 million?
How about a $70 million idea?
$100 million idea. Yeah.
We'll get rid of Laurence Fishburne and Hugo Weaving. Now it's a $50 million idea.
Yeah. All right. Well, maybe we'll have to revisit it another time.
Yeah. I mean, we've just saturated ourselves with this. I feel like I'm feeling like a blue pill kind of guy right now. I don't feel like total red pill, but I think I will go back and I will see this movie again soon. Because I wanted to see it for so long. I was waiting for it for so long, and I was so looking forward to it. I feel like I do want to give it one more look, although I'm sure that's just going to...
It's going to make us probably more
It's
sad.
just going to be even more devastating the second time.
Oh, man. All right, well, our recommendation is to watch the first one and just stop there.
Yeah, that's probably sound advice right there. And I agree. I mean, honestly, the first movie for me is 5 stars. I mean, it's a perfect film. There isn't a frame. I think it's a pulpy film, but it's a masterpiece. And so is their first film, Bound.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So check out Bound, check out The Matrix, and then stop. Apologize, Wachowskis. I like your movies, but...
Oh, man.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that does it for our conversation on the Matrix Quadrilogy and specifically the Matrix
Resurrections.
Oh my gosh. Sorry, people. It's late. Okay. The Matrix. That's it. All right.
Good night.
Good night.